Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Shinuk Pass area of the South Cascades of Washington State. We start here, but we're going to work our way towards Bumping Lake, following some old field guides written decades ago. And I'd like to learn some new things with you this morning about the Fifes Peak Formation and the Bumping Lake Pluton. I know almost nothing. Let's learn together, yet again, out here in the Cascades. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started. Okay, this is State Route 410. The traffic comes and goes. Let's grab this Seattle GSA Field Guide 1994, edited by Don Swanson, Ralph Hagerud. And there is a section on here written by Paul Hammond and others with volcanism east of Mount Rainier. Ding, 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 that works. Okay, we're going to follow portions of a road log, Shinuk Pass to Goose Prairie. So I did a Shinuk Pass video a couple months ago, and I ended the video up here at Shinuk Pass. And that's before I knew anything about the Ohanapikosh Formation. That's not really what's on display here. Oh, this is beautiful. Wow. Look at this. Early morning sun lighting this surface up beautifully. Are these mafic enclaves? Jeff Tepper, you strike again. I mean, I'm also struck by the beautifully glacially polished surface here. Ice, in other words, flowing down this valley. But if we go back into the roaring 20s, is this the Tatoosh Pluton? Is this the Bumping Lake Pluton? Is there a difference? I don't know. We have a field guide we can read. These have to be mafic enclaves, don't they? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to watch the Granite Falls Pluton video that was published a while back featuring Jeff Tepper. Hiya. Yeah, most of us would just call this a granite, right? Salt and pepper, coarse grained. Okay, so I got a question. What's the difference between the Tatoosh Pluton and the Bumping Lake Pluton? Are they the same thing? I mean, the Mount Aix caldera is over there in the over the next ridge. The Tatoosh Pluton is like right over the crest. Tatoosh Pluton's like less than 5 miles away. How can they be totally different bodies of magma? We're in the roaring 20s. This Bumping Lake Pluton. That'd be pretty sweet if they truly were different bodies. Bumping Lake and Tatoosh. So this is the country we're talking about. And we're starting here at Shinuk Pass. There it is, the Bumping Lake Pluton. Wow. And here's the Tatoosh Pluton. Are they really different? Stop. So we're going to work our way down 410. And there's a caldera to the north called the Fifes Peak Caldera. There's a caldera to the south called the Mount Aix Caldera. There's the Edgar Rock Volcano. These are all volcanic centers mapped carefully with loving care by Paul Hammond, Portland State University, over the last 70 years. And I know nothing, or very little, about those volcanic centers. It's time to learn a bunch. I got to read this again. What is Hammond saying? He's not saying mafic enclave. from that outcrop we just looked at. Because the melt contained many crystals, it was likely viscous and relatively cool. The chill zone of the Pluton contains abundant xenoliths. We were looking at the chill zone, I guess. Clearly, a certain volume of Pluton consists of assimilated host rock. This part of the Pluton is 10 kilometers north of the edge of the Mount Aix caldera. Huh. Okay, let's drive, and we're going to see road cuts every once in a while of the Bumping Lake Pluton. I think once you get to mid-October, there's a certain urgency with many who love the outdoors. It's like, hey, the weather looks great, and it might be the last great weather weekend of the year. And the colors are at their peak. And it's deer hunting season. And probably a dozen other reasons that people are heading up here. So I have been spoiled this summer by getting up so early and getting up to these places before everybody shows up. But the sun's coming up later than usual, of course. And I'm hoping to hook up with a Geology 320 field trip. Central Washington University geology majors out seeing some bedrock in the flesh tied to their rocks and minerals class. So let's see if we can run into those guys at some point.
Oh shit.
Morning.
Involved in the spread, and then everything
Size.
squishes as well.
No, it's okay. Great question.
Where's the game squishy? That's where it's hummus. Stuff. Basically welded.
I didn't even know.
That's really
I know.
hummus.
I said 5 or 10 minutes.
No. Yeah, I got one down.
Good morning, Chris.
Morning, Nick.
Oh, that's a beauty. I'm going to hold. Can you hold this with your other hand? Just
Absolutely.
up to your mouth, please.
Yeah.
You're holding up to your mouth.
yeah.
I got one here.
So here's a piece of beautifully welded Bumping River Tuff we're looking at. Students are looking at different degrees of welding. Those black squished out things, that's where there's been a nice fluffy pumice, and it's gotten squished while it's still hot enough. It's basically turned into something that looks like obsidian.
Oh, this little dude?
Spectacular.
No, he's too close to a weathering surface. I wouldn't even spark for it.
So this is pretty beautiful, and this would have come from up there on the wall where you can see almost like columnar jointing higher up in the flow there.
Do we think this is one event?
Well, my understanding is this lower part is, I think there's 5 different sections that have been mapped in here, which presumably would represent somewhat different events, but that is not something that I've really looked into.
No,
in more
me
detail.
neither. That's on my list for this winter. I don't know if you heard, but I'm doing Cascades A to Z, and I want to talk about Jim Mattinson a fair amount with his amazing work up here.
Well, we can talk.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, you're teaching. I don't want to interrupt too much, Chris.
But there's this stuff lying around on the ground. There's also pieces where these are not squished.
Go ahead.
And you can see the structure of the pumice in there. Whereas
Okay.
these have gotten squished. The structure, you can't really see too much structure anymore.
Right.
But there's pieces that don't have these black squished bits where you can really see the pumice. Actually, there's a piece right over here that's much less welded if you want to check it
Sure.
out.
So Hannah's whiteboard lecture said 25 million years ago for this stuff.
Just about, yeah. So here, come around where you can
that
get
to
the
your
good
mouth.
sunlight on it. You can see those light-colored fragments there are those pumices. So in this block, it has not gotten squished as much.
Why do we go from white to black?
Well, we're basically squeezing out the air bubbles. So think about obsidian being black.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Huh.
So it's interacting with the light differently, whereas if you have all those air bubbles, it helps reflect more of the light back at us. And this has also undergone some alteration, so
Yeah.
some clay minerals and stuff in there.
Wait a minute. Aren't you the guy that does metamorphic rock? Should I even be listening to you right now, Chris?
No, you need to talk to the expert over there. But
of
here,
course. You're an encyclopedia for everything.
We can do the
geology.
side-by-side
Yeah,
comparison here.
nice. Unflattened pumice. So you're saying these things used to look like this?
Yeah, and you can even just get a sense for this rock, how much harder it is. Actually,
Yeah.
Nick, if you want to do a little audio visual here,
Yeah.
get my hammer out and just
Oh boy.
give a sense
Oh boy.
for... You
We're
wanna
gonna
hold
get
the
you on-
microphone up.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, can you hear that?
Yeah.
Hear how that's kind of a dull thud, and you can even see it's kind of crumbling apart, whereas this is a harder rock. So that different degree of welding, a lot more air bubbles in that one than this one.
Thank you, Chris.
Sure.
Thank you.
But you should talk to the real expert.
Yeah, because I was confused.
So when you have these ignimbrites, remember they're hot and they're gassy. So when they're being deposited, hi Nick,
Good morning.
they can get oxidized not just by the water in the atmosphere, but by the gas percolating, like the magmatic gas percolating through the deposit, so it can turn it pink.
So the gas is giving a texture change to the.
It's oxidizing it
It's
basically.
oxidizing.
So yeah, it makes your
It's just a different look of oxidizing in this rock.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you have some, like you kind of have a pinkish reddish matrix. So this looks
Yeah.
oxidized to me. But some of the other pieces, like maybe this one, excuse me. This one is less. This is more kind of beige oatmeal matrix.
So can I
less
say that for
oxidation.
ground mass, like
Okay.
like compressed oxidized ash?
Yeah, or variably oxidized, because not every piece has that pinkish to
Right,
it.
okay.
But yeah, that's totally
cool.
appropriate. You keep
Thank you.
it's okay. And then make sure you guys are picking up a welded piece too.
Yeah, okay.
For question 2.
Okay, so we got.
So yeah, what'd you see in the non-welded?
Well, I saw a lot of project clays.
Nice.
I thought
You saw
ash-
quartz?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I thought ash made up a lot of the rock
Yes,
as well.
yeah, totally. The ground mass is mostly fine
Yeah.
ash. Good. And then what else?
I saw some basalt in there.
Yeah, totally. All these little guys?
Yeah, I had a good piece that had some good squares in it.
Cool. So those are your lithics. Okay.
That's pretty much all I got.
Do you have any kind of...
How'd the shift go at Starbucks yesterday? Was it wild?
It was chaotic.
Yeah.
It was quite wild.
I was just up at Shinuk Pass. It's wild. Everybody and their brother is out enjoying this weather. So you probably had all sorts of folks coming through Starbucks.
So many people.
Yeah.
It was unpleasant.
Okay.
That's why we're out here with the rocks.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's why I like rocks
Yeah.
better than... Say it's a little bit of a jump, but not bad. We started it this week, and we've had an opportunity to look at some of the samples.
Yeah. So you kind of have an approach, like you're writing up a description, and you've done that in lab already a couple times.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, so it's not super stressful, or it is? I don't know. Like
I'm not
sometimes.
stressed out.
Good. It's such a gorgeous morning, Julie.
It's
Come
beautiful
on, man.
outside,
Yes.
and I'm looking at rocks. I mean, life can't get much better than this.
Right.
Like, how do you know which one's welded and which one's not? Just based off your observations.
Well, just I can see those.
You have fiamme. Yeah, what
fiamme.
else? There's also some other changes that happen. Not just fiamme.
Well, I guess texture-wise,
Yeah.
some different composition changes.
Yeah, your matrix, your ground mass can be a lot more dense, and it can also change color. It can kind of become darker in color.
So these ones never have vesicles, or very rarely do.
They get
because
squished
they're a lot more
out.
compressed.
Exactly, exactly.
So you can have vesicles in this material,
You can
but
have
not in the
vesicles
material with
in
the
your
fiamme.
pumice. Like these little popcorn pumice
Right.
can have vesicles in them, but those have all been squished away and are now
Okay.
just glassy.
Morning.
Morning, Tsar.
Doctor.
Tsar Nicholas.
Dr. Shamloo.
Dr. Shamloo. Dr. Professor Ma'am.
Call me Handsham. That's my favorite nickname. That's what I used to be called in grad school.
I think you've got...
Okay, what did we observe in the first rock, or the more common rock you were picking up on the outcrop? What were you observing in the rock? So think of the hand sample descriptions we do in lab. What kind of things were you seeing?
Ground mass.
Quartz, great. How'd you know it was quartz?
Vitreous.
Vitreous, conchoidal fracturing, lax cleavage. And it was transparent. Yeah, great. It had kind of that shininess when you tilt it in the light. Great. What other components? Lithics. What did the lithics look like? They looked basaltic. Okay, they were dark in color. What about their shape?
Fragmented.
Yeah, they were really angular, fragmented, kind of randomly oriented, right? What else did we see? Pumice. How'd you know it was pumice? What gave it away that it was pumice? You could see vesicles, maybe with your hand lens. What else? Yeah, really light in color. Did anyone scratch it with their pencil? Maybe. That's my trick. Yeah, it's a little gritty. Yeah, if you scratch it with your pencil, they're very weak. It's easy to make a little indent in them. Great. What about the ground mass? What are we making of the ground mass? Yeah, fine particle ash probably. Relatively consolidated piece of rock, right? It's not crumbling in our hands. It's all just together. Great. Did anyone take a stab at a field name? You know this is the Bumping River Tuff, but was anyone confident in assigning it a field name? Now remember, our choices are komatiite. Is this a komatiite?
Damn.
No. I've never seen a komatiite in real life.
Really?
Really. They're very rare. Anyways,
Okay.
Our other choices are basalt, andesite, rhyolite. How would we tell between?
Got quartz.
It's got quartz. Yes, quartz is really silicic mineral that is found in high silicic magmas. So this is likely rhyolitic in composition.
Well, you're
Compression, yeah. Right, yeah, so it's compression in the same direction. So when these things are deposited, they're still pretty hot. So they start to fuse and remelt together. But when you continuously bury and continue to deposit on top of each other, you can have pressure enough to squish out those popcorn pumice. So the pumices lose their vesicles and they become really dense and glassy. And that's what you're looking at with the fiamme. What else is different between the two rock samples? Yeah.
The ground mass around the fiammes are a little bit more aphanitic.
Okay, more aphanitic. So yeah, your ground mass is becoming more fine-grained, harder to see any kind of discernible changes. Yeah, I think that's great. Again, that's a result from this welding. Everything was just getting kind of squished and consolidated and cemented. That's awesome. Anything else? Yeah.
The color.
Yes, how does the color change between the samples?
That one's more pinkish, and this one has more of a brown tinge.
Totally. Yeah, again, so generally when we see welding, it can change the color of the original ignimbrite. So this is kind of oatmeal beigeish color, and our welded one is a little more darker gray. That's great. Any other observations you want to add that we haven't discussed?
There's low degree fiammes that are formed.
Yeah, so I like what Alita's saying. She's assigning kind of a quantitative or qualitative value of welding. So she's calling this one low degree and this one maybe higher degree of welding. Yeah, I love that. That's a great way to talk about this because you don't have just one recipe for welding. You can get a little welding, a lot of welding. So we kind of describe it as a spectrum or a degree of welding. So that's great. Anything else? How do we know this deposit is from explosive activity? Yeah.
The presence of pumice at all.
Yes, pumice. Yeah, you don't get pumice with just a lava flow, right? The fact that we have these light popcorn things is from explosivity. Good. What else?
Vesicles.
Vesicles. Awesome. Although you can also have vesicles in lava flows, but yes, in the pumice you have vesicles. Yep.
I'm doing good. I like this. I'm doing. I'm good.
Go ahead first.
You don't have to speak. You don't have to speak. It's what we call B-roll in the business, you say.
Well, look at that beautiful crop there. Perfect lighting. Look at that.
Colonnade above it?
Yeah, you can see some columns in there. That's that more densely welded stuff that's forming that more columnar section up there compared to what you can see underneath.
Yeah. You kind of see the unwelded texture.
Yeah, cool.
Interesting stuff.
Living it, baby. Living it.
Oh, Jess wants to see it.
I want to see it. Oh, cool. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's what I said. So I
You smashed it too.
I think they were all like kind of in that, I don't know what to call it, like the scummy area where all the stuff falls down.
Exactly.
Huh?
It's in the textbook.
The rock scum.
It's coming.
Oh, nice. What flavor do you think this is?
Thank you.
I don't know.
It kind of looks like wood.
Stare at it longer in the car.
Right? Same.
At least I would think so.
Okay. Having a little lunch, enjoying the fall colors. Goat Rocks team, Hannah Shamloo, Kelly Wall. Spirit Lake team, Mike and Isla. Mike Eddy. And Isla, still working on how to pronounce your last name, Isla. And Barbara is off of the project. She's had to move to Germany for a new job. So, Stratocone, Stratocone, Stratocone. US 12 over White Pass. Today we are up on 410. I started the video just to the east of the crest of the Cascades at Shinuk Pass. And now we are kind of down here at the fold in the Bumping Lake area. The Pat Pringle book, yet again. You have this in digital form. And the rest of the video today is on leg O. So here is the road. I zeroed my trip meter at the junction. This is the Bumping River Road. And it ends at Bumping Lake. William O. Douglas in his youth would walk from downtown Yakima up to Bumping Lake regularly for health benefits. He struggled as a sickly child. Yeah, William O. Douglas, the guy who now has a wilderness named after him, William O. Douglas, who was a Supreme Court justice for many years. Okay, so halfway up this leg O, Pringle tells us about the Bumping River Tuff. We're going to read and then we're going to walk across the road to look at it. Bumping River Tuff. Paul Hammond, back in the 90s, is writing it up. An outcrop of the tuff is on the west side of the road. Bumping River. There's about 100 meters, or there's almost 400 feet of Bumping River Tuff along the road. But if you look in the quarry, you've got more than 3,000 vertical feet of the Bumping River Tuff. Wow. The source vent for the Bumping River Tuff is 12 miles to the south, at the edge of the Mount Aix caldera, a peak known as Bismarck Peak. At least 5 separate pyroclastic flow units can be seen in this 3,000 feet of stuff, each representing a separate pyroclastic flow event. There's a basalt sill that separates some of the units, And the dates collected back in the 80s are in the 20s, and Hammond in the 2000s, in the aughts, came up with a potassium argon date of 24.7, so we'll round it up to 25. Pyroclastic flows, a sequence of them, suggests a period of caldera collapse during eruption. These deposits are overlain by lahars and pyroclastic surge deposits, and they're underlain by old weathered volcaniclastic strata full of fossils, by the way, known informally as the Wildcat Creek beds. The Bumping River Welded Tuff is in a big quarry, thick, hot ash flows commonly cooled as one or more flow units and became welded. Not to be outdone, Marley Miller, in her second edition of Roadside Geology of Washington, writes, the Ohanapakash Formation, east of the crest of the Shinuk Pass, is intruded in two places by granodiorite of the Bumping Lake Pluton. This intrusion, the Bumping Lake Pluton, named for Bumping Lake nearby, is probably between 24 and 23 million years old, so it is older than most of the Tatoosh. Okay, that's interesting. So there is an age difference? Or how good are those dates to make sure that the Tatoosh is not the same as the Bumping Lake Pluton? He asks himself. Okay, I think I'm starting to get some ideas here. So this is the Bumping River Road heading south towards Bumping Lake. And that silhouette way up high, I'm pretty sure, according to the guide, is the Old Scab Mountain. And I think I read that Old Scab Mountain is pretty young. It's like maybe 10 million years old and is a known source for many of the Ellensburg Formation lahars and other types of volcaniclastic deposits. I'll need to follow up on that. But if I swing you around and give you a very soothing shot of the Bumping River in mid-October, and then I swing you up to the wall above the Bumping River Road, what do we have? Okay, I'm listening. My God, those are columns in rhyolite? Those are columns in a rhyolitic welded tuff? The Bumping River Tuff? How did I not know about this tuff before? I'm an hour and a half from my house, for crying out loud. Embarrassing. 3,000 feet of Bumping River Tuff. My God. We're outside of the caldera, I guess. These are blankets of pyroclastic flow smothering everything alive for what, 100 miles in all directions surrounding the Mount Aix caldera? 25 million years old? Vesicles, light colored, altered in appearance, bleached out look. Lightweight. This is frothy stuff. Like, this reminds me of my master's thesis was on the northern edge of the Snake River Plain, and I was mapping flows, pyroclastic flows of the Heisey volcanic field tied to Yellowstone. And it's from that one and only experience that I knew that if you're at the very top of a pyroclastic flow, it's frothy and vesicular. But as you go deeper and deeper into that one flow unit, it gets hotter and hotter and more welded and compacted. And by the time you're at the base of one pyroclastic flow unit, it's glass. It's obsidian. So I have no idea how much mass wasting we're looking at. I have we're not in place, I don't think, but these welded tough tops, well, that's about the end of my knowledge. And so I say, thank you so much for watching this field video. Very different than the others. It wasn't just me. A little bit of me at the beginning of the end, but most of it was just eavesdropping on a Geology 320 field trip. And those majors that were standing in that circle listening to Dr. Hannah Shamloo and Dr. Chris Mattinson, they didn't fall out of a major's tree. They were cultivated by myself, by Jordan Carey, by Hannah Shamloo, and they were cultivated by people at two-year schools, many of which are former students of ours here at Central Washington University, who now teach full-time at the community colleges in the state of Washington. So, trying to give you the sense that all roads lead to Ellensburg, Washington, at least from our point of view, and getting them into that Geology 320 class, Rocks and Minerals, with Hannah and Chris, is the main goal. Because once they're in there, they are locked in with very talented and impressive geologists. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you enjoy all these field videos. Thank you. I love you. And goodbye from Bumping River in Central Washington.